everyone, it's English time. Today, we are going to study our first lesson entitled Completing an Analogy. Here are our learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, you are going to analyze relationships presented in analogies. Supply other words or expressions that complete an analogy, and sequence and reorganize ideas or information. Let us first answer this question. What do you think is the correct meaning of analogy? Letter A word or phrase that possesses different meaning from its literal definition. Letter B, a statement that uses an exaggeration for an emphasis or effect. Letter C, a comparison of two unlike things based on the resemblance of a particular aspect. I am going to give you 5 seconds to answer. Time's up. Let us now check your answers. Who answered letter B? A statement that uses an exaggeration for an emphasis or effect. Letter B is incorrect because it is the definition of hyperbole, which is a figure of speech. What about letter A? A word or phrase that possesses different meaning from its literal definition. Letter A is also incorrect. Letter A is the definition of figures of speech. So the correct answer is letter C, a comparison of two unlike things based on the resemblance of a particular aspect. An analogy shows the relationships between words. It also states the likeness between two things that are otherwise unlike. An example of an analogy is this. Cold is to hot just like wet is to blank. How are we going to know the answer? Let us try it this way. The single colon between the words in the left and right is read as is to, while the two colons between the pairs of words is read as just like. So, we are going to read it as cold is to hot just like wet is to blank. Let us complete the analogy by having this. On the first line, we have the first pair, which is cold and hot. On the second line, we have wet and the missing word. On the last line, it is where we are going to put the relationship of each words. Now, let us look on the completed set. Cold, hot. What do you think is the relationship between the two? That's right. Cold is the opposite of hot. So let us first write it on the blank. The relationship is they are opposite. Cold is the opposite word for hot. So, what is the opposite of wet? To complete the analogy, we are going to find out what is the opposite word for wet. So, the answer is dry. Very good. Now, I want you to look on this given example. Let us try this. What do you think is the missing word to complete this analogy? Heart is to circulatory, just like lungs is to blank. Let us go back to this question after our discussion. There are 6 types of analogy: synonyms, antonyms, part and whole, characteristics, function, cause and effect. Let us first have the first one, which is synonyms. Synonyms are words possessing the same meaning. Again, same meaning. For example, happy is to joyful, just like pretty is to cute. Happy and joyful has the same meaning, or what we call as synonymous. Also, pretty and cute are the same. Now we have antonyms. These are the words opposite to each other in terms of meaning. Again, opposite. An example is, huge is to tiny, just like hot is to cold. Huge is the opposite word of tiny. And we have hot as the opposite word of cold. Part and whole, where several objects comprise or make up a group, wherein the first word is part of the other word. For example, fin is to fish, just like a wing is to bird. Fin is part of a fish, and also wing is part of the bird. Does it make sense now? Characteristics are mostly comprises descriptions of items. Description from its root word describe. These are the words you use to describe someone or something. For example, smart is to teacher, just like board eraser is to dusty. The teacher is described as smart, while the board eraser was described as dusty. The next one is function. It shows what a certain object is for or explains its use. For example, keyboard is to type, just like stove is to cook. The function or the usage of a keyboard is for us to type, and the function or the usage of the stove is to cook. Got it? And lastly, we have cause and effect, wherein it shows the cause and effect relationship of the words. For example, study is to graduate, just like hard work is to success. What will happen if you study? You will graduate. What will happen if you work hard? You will be successful. Now, let us go back to my question a while ago. What do you think is the word that will complete this analogy? So, the completed pair that we have here is heart and circulatory. We have heart and circulatory. What's their relationship? Heart is part of our circulatory system. Very good. So, the type of this analogy is part and whole. So, how are we going to complete this analogy? Lungs is to blank. Lungs is to respiratory. Heart is to circulatory, just like lungs is to respiratory. Very good. Let us now have a summary on today's topic. Analogy shows the relationships between words, and it also states the likeness between two things that are otherwise unlike. There are 6 types of analogy, and these are synonyms, antonyms, part and whole, characteristics, function, and cause and effect. So, do you have any questions? If ever, do not hesitate to ask me through our Google Classroom. That's all for today. Goodbye, class.